Hey guys, for this review I decided to do something a bit different. I'm going to be reviewing Justice League Gods and Monsters. Now I'm not the biggest comic book reader, but when I do, I've read some of Earth 2, the first two volumes of it, and I think it's interesting sort of seeing different origin stories of superhero characters, especially the DC ones. And Justice League Gods and Monsters is exactly that, with the main three Justice League members: Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. So the story of this film is, basically the Justice League are doing their thing. They go in, uh, they do jobs that the U.S. Uh, government cannot do, like taking out certain types of terrorists and that, and they do it in a very brutal way, unlike the ones that many of us are used to. These ones actually kill terrorists and kill a bunch of people just to get the job done. And then basically there's people on one side saying the Justice League should go away, and there's others that just think they should stay, or just do their job properly, I guess. And the whole story is that someone's actually trying to frame the Justice League. People are actually dying off one by one, specific scientists, and Batman's trying to work out what's going on. Superman, he's not too bothered by it, really, and same with Wonder Woman. They don't make it priority number one, really, whereas Batman does, because he fears that one of his friends will get hurt. Now, this universe is very different from the one that many of us would know. Clark Kent, Bruce Wayne, Diana, they aren't actually Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman. In this one, it's Zod's son that is Superman, and I have to say he is a lot more interesting than Clark Kent, because from what I know from Superman the animated series, Superman wasn't really that interesting as a character. He seemed sort of like, okay, this is the good way to do things, I'll do it. Whereas with Zod's son, he's quite, there's something about him. He has like this mysterious side to him. Like, he talks at one point to join people together, but sort of under a dictatorship. You get that feel that he's planning to, pretty much take over the world in a way, but in some ways he's very kind, and he's definitely more interesting than Clark Kent was. He's more badass as well. And of course he is actually called Superman in this, same with Clark Kent. They're all called their counterpart's name in that sense. But yeah, he's a lot more badass as well, like the way he talks to the president and to the military and the police and that. So yeah, this is the first time I actually say Superman is actually my favorite compared to Batman in this. Now, Batman in this is actually Kirk. I think it's Kirk Douglas or whatever it is. I don't know what the character's full name is. I just know it's Kirk. But he's the guy who becomes Man-Bat. For some of you who've watched the animated series, Man-Bat, for some of you who don't know, is actually a man who did experiments on bat DNA on himself, and he actually turned into a half man, half bat hybrid. And then the experiment goes a bit differently, where he basically becomes a vampire. So he uses these powers to actually fight crime, and he only sucks the blood out of criminals that he's fought. He has quite a very serious attitude, almost like a computer, and there's not really much to him. It was an interesting idea, sort of making Batman a superpowered person, but that was the sort of charm I liked from the one that I'm used to. Using gadgets, using his brain more, analyzing opponents. This one does that as well, but he relies a bit more on his superpowers rather than sort of thinking things through in a way. You can clearly see he's thinking things through in this film, but I just kind of felt as if the Bruce Wayne Batman would have thought things out a little bit more better, and uh, Batman let me down on this one, but you do learn about him and his past, but even then, there's not much to it. And then the third member of the Justice League, Wonder Woman. Um, she was a strong-willed female character. She didn't take crap from anyone. She wasn't tied down to one man. That was kind of her thing, and she's like super strong, as you expect. Her backstory out of the three of them was the most interesting. Um, you know, uh, I don't know what I think her name is Becca. Now I'm not too familiar with the DC comics, but she's like the daughter of a god or something like that, and she was going to marry Orion, and it's explained in this, and Orion is like the son of Darkseid, who's like this villain in DC universe, and you see that her backstory and the day she's going to marry him and all this. I think that was the better of the three of them, but it doesn't really tie in too much into the story, but it sort of ties in more with her character, which I was okay with, because even then with, at the beginning of the film you see Superman's backstory, but it's mainly more of the birth of Superman. We don't know how he actually grew up as such, though it is referenced here and there throughout the film. And with Batman, it was okay. It was just basically more to see how he got his power, but it was glanced over. But Wonder Woman's was the most interesting backstory out of the three. Character-wise, she was kind of interesting. Comparing these three to the ones I'm used to, I definitely prefer this Superman over the Clark Kent one, but I definitely prefer Bruce Wayne, Batman to this one. But with the Wonder Woman, I don't really know too much about the other Wonder Woman. I don't really know about her backstory. The original one I'm talking about, I don't really know too much about her. I kind of wish I did before I watched it, sort of compare. But the Wonder Woman in this film was good, and I can't say if I liked her better than Diana's Wonder Woman. Now you do see many DC characters in this film making small cameos, like you see Professor Freeze, or Mr. Freeze I should be saying. You have the Atom, you have Lex Luthor. There's a bunch of them, I just can't name them all off the top of my head. But they make very small cameos. They aren't really that important to the story as such. You also have the guy who made the Metal Men. I can't even think of his name, but he appears for a good bit throughout the film. And you have Zod as well, but I'm assuming Bruce Wayne doesn't actually exist in this world. Maybe he does, but there's no reference to Wayne whatsoever. But yeah, it's nice to see some sort of cameos with the characters. And if they did make a sequel to this, I'd be interested to see what the other characters are doing. Like maybe like Joker or Penguin or Riddler, or maybe even, adding Flash, Green Lantern, Hawk Gal into it, just to see maybe different characters playing them. Because I know a little bit about the Flash and Green Lantern. And even from Earth 2, I know sort of different Flash and Green Lantern as well. But yeah, it'd be interesting if they did a sequel to this. Animation in this film is very good. Warner Brothers does a great job with these superhero films, in my opinion. Like, I've seen the Batman Mask the Phantasm film, Under the Red Hood, Batman versus Superman, or Batman and Superman, it's one of those two titles, and Crisis on Two Earths, and I think a couple of more of the films. And I found them very enjoyable. The animation is really nice to look at, and in this film, they do a really good job, especially with the fights. I think they do a good job with them. Um, Also the sound as well. The voice acting is very good. You know, I can't really think of anyone that sort of stands out that much because they are really good voice actors that they picked for this. I don't know the names of any of them. Um, One, if I had to pick one voice actor that did stand out, would probably be uh, Superman's voice actor. I think he did a superb job. He was great. Uh, Everyone else did great work, but his particular stood out to me the most. This isn't really a usual sort of superhero film from DC, because a lot of the ones I could think of, the superheroes just mainly go at a lighter sort of feel in a way, that they don't try to kill. They just mainly go, okay, we're going to make sure that uh, we're going to save as many lives as possible, even if they're bad guys. This film, there's a lot of darker tone. There's so many people getting killed off. There's, the superheroes themselves, the Justice League, they don't care who they kill. As long as they're bad, they do not care. But there is 3 shorts that actually came before this film. Each one of them focusing on a different member of the Justice League. So there's the Batman one where he fights Harley Quinn. There's the Wonder Woman one where she tries to stop a nuclear missile being launched. And there's one with Superman trying to stop Brainiac. And, they're good additions to watch. And you see sort of how they act individually towards these villains. And the Superman one is definitely one that I would check out. It's episode 3 if you guys are interested in seeing it. But all 3 of them are very good. So my final verdict for this film, I'd give it a 6.4. It was a very good film. Different take on the characters. I enjoyed that. But I personally found the story predictable in the way that I worked out who exactly was trying to frame them, and how they were doing it pretty much was very easy to work out. I don't know if this is actually a comic already, because I know there's like 52 universes in DC or something like that. So I don't know if this is actually its own universe already, or maybe this is just something completely different. But those of you who probably read this in the comics would know already. But those of you who don't know, and who are kind of sick of seeing, oh well, Batman has no powers, Superman is kind of like the image of America in the DC universe, pretty much. Check out this film. It's interesting to see Superman and Batman in different sort of personalities and different sort of positions within the Justice League. And I don't really know much about Wonder Woman, as I said already, but this one is definitely an interesting protagonist, and she was great to follow. And she wasn't really like two-dimensional as some women are portrayed in comics. She's a lot more of a personality to her, and I know nowadays females are portrayed more or developed more in comics. I just don't read too much of them, but I definitely check this out if you're a DC fan or even just a superhero fan. And if you've already watched this, I don't really know what to recommend. Maybe just try Earth 2. Try Crisis on 2 Earths if you haven't seen that. It's basically, what if the Justice League were warlords pretty much ruling the world. That's all I have to say on this film. So I hope you guys check it out. Tell me what you thought of this film. I don't know what else to say. Subscribe, like, check out more of my videos. If you want me to do more, maybe superhero sort of stuff, write down in the comments below. And as I said already, write down below what you thought of this film. And thank you guys for watching, and goodbye.